feel like that's my theme music. What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening, people? This is gonna be episode 2 of Ed Talks. I'm your man Stephen Harrison, just coming to you, talking to you about what's going on in the streets and these education streets, these school streets. That's all I'm here to do. Um, this episode is gonna be a little bit different. Over the last couple of weeks on different social media platforms, I posed a few questions out there just to see what people's thoughts were on what was going on in the schools versus what they were looking at on the news, reading on different platforms, and some of which what they were actually or what you were actually seeing taking place in the schools. And what happened was instead of getting the questions answered, yes, the questions were answered when I was asking, but people turned it on me and was asking me what my thoughts were on certain things. So what I did was I just compiled a list of some of the questions that were given to me to see if I can give it my best go, take a swing at it, and see what happens. Um, I try not to read them or get too involved with them as I was making the list because then I would have, you know, been way, way too deep in this thing. So there are a couple of questions that pretty much will go together. So if I'm looking at, let's see, two of these. So this one says, we're moving schools next year and I'm thinking about taking my kids out of DPS altogether. What are your thoughts? And one of the other ones was, what are some good schools in the area? So those two, I said, those two can probably go together. And trying to address the first question, with the family that's taking their kids out of DPS or thinking about taking their kids out of DPS, I'm assuming that this one is going along the lines of growing together. And in the previous podcast or the previous episode, I was talking about how the school district is about to do something that it hasn't done in 30 years. So making splitting the whole thing into 5 different zones, offering similar programming throughout the school district, adding dual language immersion classes, adding year-round schools, adding Montessori, so that the options are pretty pretty much the same throughout each one of the zones. So going to the other question of what are some good schools in the area and how these two things mold together. My assumption is the family that's moving from their current school and having to go to another school, they are probably a little nervous about the unknown, which is fair. You've been at a school, whether it be 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years, and you've gotten accustomed to the community. You've gotten accustomed to the teachers, the just the culture of the school, and now you have to up and go to another school. That could be a problem. So I understand that. But I am not one of those people that talks about what's a good school versus a bad school because what you see versus with your eyes in a school is much different than what you see on a piece of paper with numbers. Saying that, there are some schools, for example, that perform really well on paper. And then you have some schools that don't perform as well on paper, but if you go into the school, you see how hard the teachers are working. You see that the people don't mind coming to work. And in this climate, in the way that the schools and the whole system is right now, and in this climate, if you have that kind of environment where nobody's trying to rush to get outside to get to their car, to get home. Nobody's trying to, they're giving 100%. And I don't mean 100% of 20%. They are genuinely there working hard, getting there early, staying late. Um, but you can tell by how even the students respond to the teachers and how they react to the teachers. You can see all of that. But again, on paper, they don't look as good as other schools. Um, so I am not one of those to say, "Oh no, what's a good school versus a bad school?" Because right off the top of my head, if I'm thinking of one I love, it was just a couple that I was having a conversation with Wednesday, well, a couple of days ago. Um, that because I'm in schools a lot, I love going to Fayetteville Street Elementary School. Love going in there. I love going to Burton Elementary School. Love going in there. Is you can the expressions on the kids' faces, the way that the staff interact with each other for the most part. It's all smiles. I was joking with a principal just yesterday, saying how no matter what happens, if I know if I'm coming here, if you don't do nothing else, you're gonna feed everybody. So there are so many different schools um, that don't get any type of praise that some others do. It's a lot of that, and I think that is a lack. Again, I keep talking heavy about checking temperature, checking the pulse. I just think that so many people sit behind their desk and look at numbers, and that's how they make and continue to make determinations on what's going on. Let's go to another question. Let's see. How do you really feel about the rezoning in Durham Public Schools? Again, that's growing together. I I am very interested in seeing how all of the moving pieces are going to work since it all starts at the same time. It's going to be a small glimmer in July when year round schools start back. And because there are a few more this year than there have been before, we'll get to see in a very small vacuum size sample, get to see how it's gonna work. But in August, when school starts back for everybody, I am extremely interested in seeing how all of these many different pieces try to come together like a puzzle. I don't know how it's gonna work, um, even from just logistics right off. I don't know how it's gonna work, but I'm interested in seeing how it will. Um, I do not believe it is going to go without any hiccups. I don't think it's going to go without any hiccups. I do believe there will be some places in there that may have to be revisited much sooner than later. I have one question here. I'm originally from Virginia and I have a rising ninth grader. We've been accepted at one of the specialty high schools. What do you think is what do you think are some of the biggest differences between the specialties versus the others? For anybody who does not know about the specialty high schools, those are schools, I can give it to you in the layman's terms. They have and operate on college schedules, so they go to school um, probably about 2 weeks prior to everybody else. So they go more or less in the first week of August. But with those schools, they specialize in certain areas. Like you have a Durham School of Technology, City of Medicine Academy. That's one that their focus is on different career fields in healthcare. You have what do we have? Early College High School. That one is one of those self-explanatories. That one is one that have different models in different areas of different cities across the state. But pretty much, for example, I'll go with the Durham School of Technology. All of these schools are small in size in comparison to all the others. But Durham School of Technology is one of those that offers dual enrollment with the community college in a sense that probably by the end of your sophomore year, you'll be probably well on a good path because all the classes are semester long. You'll be well on your way to being able to dual enroll in community college. So by the end of said high school journey, you will graduate high school potentially with your high school diploma and potentially an associate's degree. Or you may graduate with a high school diploma and certifications in other fields. So you are pretty much employable at the point of graduating high school. Included in that is being able to have college credits that will transfer, and because you'll be dual enrolled in a community college in the state of North Carolina, that means that your um, credits will transfer within the if the school is within the UNC system. So, unlike when I was in high school 20 plus years ago, we didn't have any of these types of options. I'm from Wilmington, North Carolina, if you don't know. And at the time that I graduated, we only had three high schools, all 4A, all of them 2,000 students plus. But now you have other options. Like in an area like I'm in now, man, you have school like the specialty high schools. You have the regular traditional high schools in which you can get the AP courses, and some of them have different specialties as well, but they operate on a traditional calendar. So the students now have so many other options, including charter high schools if the parents wanted to go that route. So they have so many different choices and opportunities to be successful. Not to mention, at the same time, they have a 10-point scale, which that's another subject for another day. But there are so many options for these students now that you just have to do your research and try to figure out which one is going to work best for you, your child, and the plans that you have. Because at these specialty high schools, most of the students who go to these schools, they already know what time it is. They already know when I go here, it is not just to be messing around. I'm going to be a part of this 99% graduation rate. So it's not going to be the, oh yeah, we here and I'm showing up, but no. The well over the majority of these students that go to these schools have a plan that entails something post high school. So it just depends on what type of plan, what type of student you have, what type of it just depends. So I don't think that's a one size fit all model as well. Let's see what else we got here. How do you feel about standardized tests? For those that are watching on YouTube, and for those of you who are not, that was the face that I just made. And for those standardized tests, this is what I believe. I do believe that schools need to be held accountable for the learning of the students. Period. I believe that. But I do not believe that the almost the one size fit all model of standardized testing is the be all end all. I don't believe that. I will never believe that. I know that no matter what school you go into for the next 5 weeks, well, I say 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks. For the next 3 or 4 weeks, all you're gonna hear is test prep, 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 prep. You're gonna hear those words 500,000 times, and it's all because the schools are preparing for the end of grade test. I feel like in some situations, the pressure that's put on even district level tests, not even just saying just the end of grade standardized tests that we're accustomed to. Let's just talk about some of these district level tests. The district level tests are supposed to be given, administered, and given to the students, but for the purpose of giving the teachers information for them to figure out how to move forward with what they are teaching. Do I need to reteach this? Can I move past this? We did really well here. We'll revisit this. Maybe not. Some of these other areas we probably need to go over as well. That's what it's supposed to be. It is supposed to be for just pretty much information, just to give the teacher to figure out where you are, where you need to be, what you need to do to get where you want to go. But what ends up happening is they're treated as if they are another standardized test that is pretty much telling you what you're doing wrong and what you better get done, and you need to do better than this, because they're looking at numbers on a piece of paper. So in the grade tests, we need them. That's just it. Do they have to be in the format that they are in? I don't think so. I think there are different things that you can do during a school year. 180 days. By that time, 170. I think there are so many different things that can be included in this, and that just be a part of what it is. So that's my thoughts on it. But to keep it standardized, to keep it, they would say valid. They want them all to be the exact same way. So therefore, there is no objectivity or subjectivity in it. It is, this is what you did. These are the numbers. That's it. Has no bearing on whether or not those 35 kids right there saw somebody get in an accident on the way to school, and they now still have to then go take a test. Or the 10 students that, real talk how it is in some of these neighborhoods, those 10 students that live in that neighborhood saw 15 police cars in their neighborhood, and the police cars are there for 2 and 3 hours into the night because something happened in the neighborhood. But those students who didn't go to sleep until 11:30, 12 o'clock now have to get up and go take a test. So the test, the numbers, it doesn't tell the whole story, because what happens when those students do not do well, regardless of if they were trending in that direction in the first place? The fact of the matter is, whatever they finish, whenever they finish and they say you have finished taking the whatever grade in the test, in the grade test, that number is going to go in there, and nobody's going to care what what happened that morning. Nobody's going to care what happened the night before. They're only going to care about what the number says on the sheet of paper, and that's it. So my thoughts on standardized tests, just like much of a lot of things in the education system as a whole, y'all have heard me talk about the TV show Designated Survivor. I truly believe that. Granted, nobody gets hurt, but I think the entire system itself needs to implode, and people who have the best interest of the children, and the people who have to teach those children, and the people who have to feed those children, and the people who have to drive those children to school, and the people that have to take care of those children, all of these people need to be at the table when it's time to make decisions on what takes place in these school buildings. Because the people who make the decisions now, the main people who make those decisions, don't care anything about public education. They are trying to chokehold it. They're withholding money. They're giving money to private schools. I'm talking about upwards of $500 million to private schools. Opportunity scholarships, as they call them. So you take public taxpayer money and give them to private schools that don't have to follow the same exact rules and guidelines as public schools do. That is an issue for me. Um, so I got one more that I talk about that I'll answer. How do I feel about, well, how do you, the question reads, how do you feel about homeschool? If you asked me this 5 years ago, my answer would be different than it is now. 5 years ago, I would tell you, it just depends on the situation. That's what I would say. It just depends. My one drawback, even how I feel now versus then, is always about the social interactions and the nuances of what you really can't teach, but what you really have to experience to know how to, you have to experience it in order for you to know how to deal with it. Like, parents try to prepare their kids, for the most part, try to prepare their kids for different types of situations, because the goal is for you to go off and go forth. But all of the different things that I talked to you about, you will pretty much experience those and know how to navigate them. But when you are in, I don't want to call it restrictive settings, it's a little bit different when you go to a school with 1,500 students, or you go to school with 500, 700 other people, completely different, from all different backgrounds, from all different socioeconomic status. They bring something different to the table, and there are certain things that you really can't teach or prepare your kids about, and they're going to experience those. You just, God bless it, hope that some of the things that you talked about are going to stick and they'll be able to navigate. When you're talking about homeschool, though, homeschool does not quite prepare them for all of those things. Now, there is so much more autonomy in what is taught. There's so much more autonomy in how it's taught. You don't have to be confined to a classroom, and everything that you were supposed to learn over these 2 weeks is not going to be just on this one piece of paper in this test, and you got to answer. So, and now that so many more families are going the homeschool route, it's almost prime time in how it can be rethought and recreated in the non-traditional. Oh yeah, we're gonna put you all over here for 3 hours, and we're just gonna talk about all of these different things. No, because in my estimation of all of it is, I still want you to be able to compete with any of these other students that you live around. So for me, if I'm looking at a student that's in the 7th grade, and somebody calls me, they call in Greater Promise, hey man, we need you we can't do this math thing, we need you to take care of this for me. I'm gonna be like, all right. So I'm looking at everything that all the other 7th graders are supposed to know in the state of North Carolina, and I'm still going to incorporate those things into what I'm going to be talking about and doing with this 7th grader that's going to be homeschooled. It may look a little different. It may even, the way we go about it might be even different. But the goal is for them to still be able to do all of those things in that grade. Now, will I incorporate other things with there that might be in 8th grade? Absolutely. For sure. Because it's only in this particular case, it only might just be one student. So since it's 1-to-1, so many more options, because I don't have to compete with 22 other people and worrying about these 6 that just won't stop talking over here. That ain't been my testimony nor my story. But I don't have to worry about those 6 over there because it's just this 1-to-1. I think that homeschool parents are going to start looking different. I think the demographics of the homeschool parents is going to start looking different. And I think that the school system is going to have to go back to the table and figure out what's next, because the enrollment is going to continue to decrease. If they go to charter schools, at least that money still, the taxpayer dollars still go to the charter school. But if they go into private and homeschool, you just losing out all day long. So they got to figure out what's next, because the way that it is currently constructed is not going to work. Since everybody loves the test scores and loves looking at the data, I personally don't care that if 27% of my students are passing math and reading, 27, then I don't really care that we went up from 25, because that means 75, almost 80% of our kids are not passing the test. So whatever it is, that the way that they want it to be done, there has to be more things included. Or again, have the people who are in the trenches at the table when it's time to talk about the things for us to move forward. Because currently, it ain't working. It ain't working. This will not be the last time that I do one of these. I actually like the Q&As myself. If y'all got more questions, man, keep sending them. And I told y'all in the previous episode, I'm going to start getting some of y'all back with me. Those people that's in the trenches, whether it be those community partners, whether there be the people in the trenches that's in those classrooms, in those school buildings, the parents that have students that attend these schools. I want to hear it all. I want to hear it all. Of course, there are going to be some that don't agree with everything I say, and I love that too. I want to talk to you as well, especially the naysayer. I really want to talk to you. But I appreciate the love, man. Episode 2 down. Peace.